Adam maneuvered through the crowded market, his eyes wide with the sort of enthusiasm only a linguist like himself could have for such a diverse array of languages and species. Stalls lined every inch of the space, each vendor vying for attention with vibrant displays and loud calls. 2 for 1 on Glesner fruits, shouted a vendor with 6 arms, waving 2 of them emphatically. Adam chuckled and made a note in his digital recorder. Even commerce had its own linguistic quirks here. Beside him, his colleague and friend, Marco, a cultural anthropologist, was deeply engaged in a conversation with a Torrigan merchant. The Torrigan's skin shimmered with a metallic sheen, changing hues as it spoke. Marco, did you catch that inflection? It's not just a question. It's a polite challenge, Adam pointed out, gesturing towards the Torrigan. Marco nodded, jotting down a note on his tablet. Cultural nuances in trade language, very intriguing. Good catch, Adam. As they moved on, Adam's gaze landed on a small, secluded booth manned by a figure whose appearance was unlike any he'd seen before. Her skin was a translucent blue, and her large, expressive eyes were focused intently on a holographic display of intricate patterns. Curious, Adam approached the booth, with Marco trailing behind him. Hello, Adam started, his voice tinged with genuine curiosity. I'm Adam, and this is Marco. We're studying interspecies communications. What are these beautiful designs? The alien looked up, her eyes widening slightly as she switched the display off. Oh, hello. I'm Lyra. These are navigational charts, not just designs. They're used for deep space journeys beyond the usual lanes. Intrigued, Marco leaned closer. Navigational charts, you say? They almost look like art. Lyra laughed, a sound like the tinkling of chimes. To us, navigation is an art. Each route has its own rhythm and beauty. Adam smiled, drawn in by the concept. Would you mind explaining a bit more? Maybe show us how you plot a course. Lyra's eyes lit up with enthusiasm. Of course. But first, tell me, have you ever heard the phrase, navigating by the stars in a literal sense? Not really, but it sounds fascinating, Adam admitted, exchanging a glance with Marco. Well, Lyra began, resetting her holographic display. Let me show you. As she explained the complex interplay of cosmic forces and celestial navigation, her hands moved through the hologram with practiced ease. By aligning certain stars in specific patterns, we can chart safe passages through unstable sectors, she explained, pointing to various flickering stars on the display. Marco was quick to draw parallels. It's like ancient Earth sailors using the North Star. Lyra nodded. Exactly. Though the principles are the same, the scale is unimaginably larger. As the conversation flowed, the initial professional curiosity between the trio deepened into mutual fascination. Adam, who was always looking for linguistic nuances, was intrigued by Lyra's use of metaphors related to space and travel. This thing is getting harder. What should we do? Lyra suddenly said, gesturing to the crowd around her booth which had grown since Adam and Marco stopped by. Adam laughed. It looks like your booth is getting a lot of attention. We could help you manage the crowd if you'd like. Would you? That would be wonderful. I could use a break to grab some food, and then maybe we can continue this discussion over a meal? Lyra suggested, her tone hopeful. Sounds like a plan, Marco agreed. And maybe you could tell us more about your culture, the way you've learned about ours through our phrases and idioms. As Lyra handed over temporary control of her booth to them, Adam and Marco prepared to dive deeper into an exchange of knowledge that promised to transcend the mere academic. Their afternoon was shaping up to be one of the most enlightening experiences of their careers, all sparked by the chance encounter at Lyra's booth. After assisting Lyra with the crowd at her booth, Adam, Marco, and Lyra made their way to a nearby cafe that was known for its intergalactic cuisine. The cafe, a vibrant hub of chatter and clinking cups, was a perfect spot for deeper conversation. As they settled into a secluded corner with their drinks, Adam with a steaming cup of Earth-style coffee, Marco with a tangy, neon-colored alien beverage, and Lyra with a delicate, steaming brew native to her world, they resumed their dialogue. So, Lyra, Adam began, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly, you mentioned that navigation is considered an art among your people. Does that influence other aspects of your culture? Lyra nodded, her eyes reflecting the soft light of the cafe. Very much so. Our approach to life is very much about finding and creating patterns, whether in the stars or in our daily interactions. What about you? How does humanity view its professions? Marco took a sip of his drink before answering. It varies widely, but there's often a strong distinction between art and science, though people like Adam here enjoy blurring those lines. Adam chuckled. Guilty as charged. I find language both scientific and artistic. Speaking of which, how do you find our human languages? I imagine they're quite different from yours. Lyra tilted her head, considering. They are complex. Your expressions often don't translate directly, which makes learning them both challenging and intriguing. For instance, yesterday I heard someone use the phrase, "This thing is getting harder. What should we do?" in a context that was clearly not about physical difficulty. It was about decision-making. Exactly, Adam said, impressed. It's a metaphorical use. We do that a lot in human languages. Use physical sensations to describe abstract concepts. That's fascinating. It seems very intuitive, Lyra mused. We tend to be more literal in our speech. Marco, always the observer, noted, that must make our idioms seem like a wild maze to you. Sometimes, yes, Lyra agreed, laughing. But I enjoy the challenge. It's like piecing together a puzzle. Their conversation drifted to other human idioms and phrases, with Adam and Marco explaining origins and meanings, while Lyra shared comparable phrases from her language. Is there an idiom for when something unexpectedly good happens in your language? Marco asked, curious about the parallels. Lyra nodded enthusiastically. Yes, we say it's like discovering a new star in a familiar constellation. It's about finding something extraordinary where you least expect it. That's beautiful, Adam remarked, genuinely impressed. It makes me think about how discovering each other's cultures can reveal so much that we didn't expect to find. The trio spent the next hour discussing various cultural surprises they had encountered in their travels and studies. Lyra was particularly keen on understanding human cultural practices, asking about everything from music and dance to public ceremonies. As a linguist, Adam, how do you see language influencing these practices? Lyra asked, her curiosity piqued. Adam thought for a moment before responding. Language shapes our understanding of the world. It's not just about communication, but about how we perceive and interact with our surroundings. For instance, the words we use for love, honor, or even conflict can deeply affect how we experience and enact these concepts. Marco added, and sometimes, understanding another culture's language can change our own perspectives, like how learning about your navigational charts has given me a new way of looking at our maps and journeys. As their meeting drew to a close, they agreed to meet again, with plans to visit a museum together to further explore human and alien art forms side by side. Lyra stood to leave first, her expression one of pleased contemplation. Thank you both for this enriching exchange. I'm looking forward to our next meeting. Likewise, Adam and Marco responded in unison, both smiling. As Lyra left, Adam turned to Marco. You know, I think we're navigating this new friendship quite well. Indeed, Marco agreed. It's like discovering a new star, just as Lyra would say. Adam had invited Lyra and Marco over to his quarters for an informal session on human culture, hoping to share more about human expressions, emotions, and social customs. The room was warmly lit, with artifacts and books lining the shelves, each object telling a story of distant worlds and past adventures. As Lyra entered, followed by Marco, she looked around with wide, curious eyes. Your home feels very human, she observed, her tone one of gentle amusement. It's a bit cluttered, I admit, Adam chuckled as he ushered them in. But each thing here has its story, much like the charts you showed us, Lyra. Marco, always eager to bridge cultural gaps, suggested, why don't we start with some basic human gestures? Like shaking hands, perhaps? It's quite common among humans as a greeting. Lyra nodded, extending her hand awkwardly. Adam took it, demonstrating a firm but gentle handshake. It's a sign of trust and equality, he explained. What about among your people? We usually exchange a light touch on the shoulder, Lyra replied, demonstrating on Marco, who reciprocated the gesture with a nod of understanding. The session progressed, with Adam pulling out a few books from his collection, showing pictures of humans displaying different emotions: happiness, sadness, anger, and love. Facial expressions can tell us a lot about a person's feelings, Adam pointed out, explaining each emotion and its significance in human interaction. Lyra was quick to catch on, her large eyes mirroring the expressions in the books as she tried to mimic them. "Is this how I would look if I were happy?" she asked, attempting a smile that was both peculiar and endearing. Marco laughed, his own smile broadening. "Exactly, though each smile is as unique as the person wearing it." Their discussion shifted from expressions to language when Adam played some recordings of human music, ranging from classical symphonies to modern pop. "Music is another way we convey emotion and stories," Adam explained. "Do you have music in your culture, Lyra?" "Yes, though it's more about harmony and resonance than melody," Lyra responded. "We use it to align our environment and ourselves." Intrigued, Marco suggested, "Maybe next time you could share some of your music with us?" "I'd like that," Lyra agreed, her tone enthusiastic. The evening continued with Adam sharing stories behind some of the artifacts in his room. He held up a small, spherical device, its surface swirling with light. "This is from a planet where the inhabitants communicate through light patterns instead of sound." "Amazing," Lyra murmured, her hand reaching out to hover over the sphere, watching as the colors changed in response to her proximity. Adam then turned the topic to human culinary practices by bringing out a tray of various earth snacks, chocolates, chips, and fruits. Eating is a significant social activity for humans. Sharing a meal can build strong bonds. As they tasted each item, Lyra was careful to express her thoughts on the flavors, which were all new to her. "This chocolate is very intense," she said, a hint of surprise in her voice. "It tends to be a favorite," Marco noted, pleased with her reaction. After several hours of rich discussion and laughter, it was clear that their understanding of each other's cultures had deepened. Lyra had not only learned about human customs, but had also shared intriguing aspects of her own culture. As they prepared to leave, Lyra turned to Adam and Marco with a thoughtful expression. "I've learned so much today. Your gestures, your music, your emotions. They're all different, yet there's a familiarity in the intent behind them." Adam smiled, pleased with the success of their cultural exchange. "We're not so different after all, it seems. It's all about finding common ground, even if our expressions of it vary." "Indeed," Lyra agreed, her earlier attempt at a smile now more confident and genuine. "I look forward to our next meeting. There's so much more to share and explore." As she left, Adam and Marco exchanged a look of mutual satisfaction. Tonight hadn't just been about sharing culture. It had been about building a new friendship, one that promised to bridge worlds with understanding and respect. Adam, Marco, and Lyra strolled through the corridors of the cultural exhibit, their eyes capturing the splendor of various artworks displayed elegantly under soft, ambient lighting. The exhibit was a melting pot of history and creativity, an ideal place for the trio to deepen their understanding of each other's worlds. "Look at this piece," Marco pointed to a large, abstract sculpture made of intertwining metal and light. "It's from the Cygnus star system. The artist intended it to represent the unity of different species within their sector." Lyra approached, her fingers hovering inches from the sculpture's surface, respectful not to touch. "It's beautiful. The light seems to pulse with its own life. In my culture, light often symbolizes knowledge and enlightenment." Adam nodded, appreciating her insight. Human artists often use light as well, especially to highlight or shadow certain truths. Art really is a universal language. As they moved from one display to another, their conversation flowed naturally from art to the more personal topic of relationships within their cultures. Adam was particularly interested in how relationships were formed and maintained in Lyra's society. In many human cultures, physical touch is a significant part of relationships, both platonic and romantic, Adam explained, demonstrating by placing a friendly hand on Marco's shoulder. "It's a sign of comfort and connection." Lyra watched the interaction with interest. "We do use touch, but it's more reserved, and usually only between very close family members or partners. Public displays are uncommon." Marco, curious, asked, "Does your culture have rituals for bonding or expressing affection?" "Yes, but they are mostly verbal and involve the exchange of thoughts or songs," Lyra replied. "Your ways of using body language are quite fascinating to me." Their discussion was interrupted when they approached a section of the exhibit dedicated to sensory experiences from various planets. A small crowd had gathered around a display titled Human Sensory Experience. "This should be interesting," Marco chuckled as he led the group towards it. Inside the booth, different human smells, sounds, and textures were replicated to give visitors a sense of Earth's environment. Adam encouraged Lyra to experience each one, from the smell of rain to the sound of a bustling city. Lyra was visibly moved by the sounds of a forest at night, with crickets chirping and leaves rustling. "It's so peaceful," she whispered, her eyes closed as she absorbed the sounds. "It's one of my favorite sounds," Adam shared, a soft smile on his face. "It reminds me of camping trips I used to take as a kid." The texture station was next, with samples of various natural and synthetic materials found on Earth. Lyra touched a piece of soft wool, then a rougher piece of tree bark. "Your planet has such diversity in textures," she noted, her fingers lingering on a piece of smooth stone. "Yes, Earth's biodiversity is something we're very proud of," Adam agreed, watching her explore with a mix of pride and fascination. As the visit drew to a close, the trio found themselves in a quieter corner of the exhibit, surrounded by visual representations of various planets' landscapes. Marco, reflecting on their discussions and explorations, suggested, "We've learned a lot about each other today. It's like each piece of art, each sound and texture, tells a part of our stories." Lyra agreed, her tone thoughtful. "It's more than just learning about art or customs. It's about understanding how these things shape us, our relationships, and our view of the universe." Adam nodded, pleased with the depth of their exchange. "And it makes me think about how much more there is to explore. Not just out there," he gestured to the depiction of a distant galaxy, "but also between us." As they left the exhibit, the lights of the space station seemed to shine a bit brighter, the colors a bit more vivid. The day had not only brought them closer to the cosmos but to each other, their connection deepened by the shared exploration of art, emotion, and the tactile beauty of their respective worlds. The soft glow of the galaxy illuminated the viewing deck where Adam, Marco, and Lyra stood, looking out onto the vast expanse of space. The environment was quiet, a stark contrast to the busy corridors of the station, providing a serene spot for contemplation and conversation. Lyra leaned against the railing, her eyes fixed on a particularly bright star. "It's incredible to think about how many worlds are out there, each with its own stories and mysteries." Adam joined her at the railing, sharing her awe. "And each one potentially full of life, as diverse and complex as the ones we know." Marco, always the thinker, added, "It really puts into perspective how unique, yet similar, we all are. Different worlds, same sky." The conversation shifted as Adam turned to Lyra with a gentle expression. "Speaking of worlds, you've told us quite a bit about your culture's navigation and art. How about love? How is love viewed where you come from?" Lyra smiled, a hint of color rising to her cheeks. "Love, for us, is deeply entwined with companionship and understanding. It's less about passion in its early stages and more about a harmonious connection of minds and spirits. That's quite different from human love, at least in many cultures," Adam mused. "Here, love can start passionately and might evolve into the deeper connection you described." Marco watched their exchange with interest, noting the subtle shifts in their body language. "Do you think those differences make relationships between our species more complicated?" "It's possible," Lyra conceded. "But understanding those differences is what helps bridge the gap. For instance, Adam, how would you describe the human act of falling in love?" Adam thought for a moment, searching for the right words. "It's often described as feeling drawn to another person almost uncontrollably. It can be exhilarating and, at times, a bit terrifying." Lyra laughed softly. "Terrifying? That's an intense way to experience love." "It is," Adam agreed with a grin. "But it's also what makes it so profound. The risk, the vulnerability. It makes the connection that much stronger." As they talked, The station's artificial night began to transition to a simulated dawn, casting a warm light over the deck. The change in lighting brought a change in topic, as Marco suggested. Why don't we each share a personal story about love? It could give us more insight into our different perspectives. Adam nodded and shared a story from his early 20s about a whirlwind romance that taught him much about both joy and heartache. His honesty set the tone, and Marco followed with a tale of a long-standing friendship that unexpectedly turned into more, highlighting the slow build of affection characteristic of some human relationships. When it was Lyra's turn, she spoke of a tradition in her culture where partners would travel to different parts of their home planet on a kind of pilgrimage, learning about each other deeply before deciding to bond permanently. It's a journey of mutual discovery, much like our conversations here. Their stories filled the space between them with a sense of intimacy and understanding that hadn't been there before. As the artificial sun rose, bathing the deck in light, Adam took a deep breath, feeling the first stirrings of a deeper affection for Lyra, mixed with admiration and respect. Lyra, sensing the shift, met his gaze and smiled. It seems we are all navigating through uncharted territories, aren't we? Yes, Adam replied, and perhaps that's the best part of any journey. Marco clapped both on their shoulders. Well, I for one am looking forward to seeing where this particular journey takes us. As they left the viewing deck, their conversation lingered on the theme of exploration, both of space and of the heart. The stars no longer seemed distant, and the possibilities stretched out before them, infinite and inviting. After their enlightening discussion on the viewing deck, Adam invited Lyra and Marco back to his quarters for a deeper exploration of their respective cultures through food, music, and art. He hoped to create a blend of experiences that could further merge their understanding and appreciation of each other's backgrounds. As they entered, Lyra looked around, noticing the changes Adam had made since their last meeting. You've added more from your travels, she observed, pointing towards a small, intricate sculpture on a shelf. Yes, Adam smiled, picking it up. I thought it might interest you. It's from a small planet in the Vega system, where art is used as a form of silent communication. Marco, who was setting up a small device in the corner, chimed in. Speaking of communication, I've brought something from Earth that might add a nice touch to our evening. With a click, soft strains of classical music filled the room, a gentle piano piece that seemed to make the space even warmer. Lyra listened intently, her head tilted slightly. It's beautiful. We have similar instruments, but the melodies are quite different. Music in our culture is more about the collective harmony than individual expression. That's an interesting contrast, Adam noted as he began to lay out an array of dishes on a low table in the center of the room. Here, try some of these. I've prepared a mix of dishes, some from Earth, and others are inspired by flavors from planets I've visited. The trio sat around the table, each sampling different foods. Lyra was particularly taken with a spicy dish that Adam had learned to make during his time on a desert planet. It is quite a kick to it, she exclaimed, her eyes watering slightly. Marco laughed, passing her a drink. Here, this might help. It's a mild, sweet beverage from my hometown. We usually drink it at celebrations. As the evening progressed, they shared stories about festivals and celebrations from their own cultures. Lyra described a festival from her planet where the alignment of 3 moons created a rare and beautiful light show. Families gather to observe the lights and share stories passed down through generations. It's about continuity and connection, she explained. Adam was fascinated. We have something similar with lunar eclipses, though the cultural significance varies widely across different human societies. He then suggested a small activity. Why don't we each draw something that represents our idea of a celebration? He distributed art supplies he had collected from different corners of the galaxy. As they drew, Marco asked Lyra more about her home. You've mentioned the importance of harmony several times. How does that influence individual relationships? Lyra paused her drawing, considering. It's about balance and ensuring that personal actions contribute to the welfare of the community. Individual desires are often viewed through the lens of how they affect others. Adam added his perspective. Human cultures can be quite individualistic, though there's a strong communal aspect in many societies as well. It's a spectrum, really. The conversation delved deeper into philosophy and governance, comparing notes on leadership styles, social responsibilities, and community dynamics. Each found nuances in the other's cultures that challenged their preconceptions and broadened their worldviews. As they finished their drawings, they displayed their work to each other, explaining the symbols and elements they had chosen. Lyra's drawing depicted a group of figures, each different but linked by shared lines of light. It represents the interconnectedness of all beings at the festival, she said. Adam's drawing was more abstract, a swirl of colors around a bright center, symbolizing the chaos and joy of a music festival on Earth. Marco's depicted a large family gathering, tables laden with food under a sky lit by fireworks. Your cultures are rich and full of depth, Lyra remarked, genuinely impressed. This exchange has made me appreciate not just your traditions but the emotions and values behind them. Adam nodded, feeling a profound sense of connection. This is what it's all about, isn't it? Learning, sharing, growing together. As the night wound down, the three friends sat back, content in their newfound understanding and the deepening of their friendships. It was clear that these cultural fusions had not only brought their worlds closer, but had also enriched each of their lives immeasurably. The conference room buzzed with the quiet chatter of various species, each attendee curious about the advertised joint seminar on human and alien cultural integration. Adam, Marco, and Lyra stood at the front, reviewing their notes and preparing to share their unique experiences and learnings from their recent exchanges. Marco looked over to Adam, a slight nervousness in his voice. "Do you think they'll be receptive to what we have to say?" Adam clapped him on the back reassuringly. "They're here, aren't they? That's a good first step. Everyone here is interested in learning, just like we were." Lyra adjusted the projector, which displayed a title slide reading "The Complexity of Us," an exploration of human and alien cultural exchange. She turned to her companions, her voice steady. "Let's show them how much there is to gain from understanding each other." As the room settled, Adam took the lead, beginning the seminar with a warm welcome. "Thank you all for joining us today. We're here to discuss something that we believe is vital for the future of all our civilizations: cultural exchange and mutual understanding." Marco then took over, clicking to a slide showing images of their meetings, the cultural exhibit, and their informal gatherings. Our journey began simply as a project to document linguistic and cultural nuances, but it quickly evolved into something much more personal and profound. Lyra continued, "Through our discussions and activities, we've learned that while our expressions of culture, like art, music, and social rituals, may differ, the underlying emotions and values are often very similar. We share more common ground than we might think." The audience, a mix of humans and various alien species, listened intently as Adam detailed some of their specific activities. "One of our most enlightening experiences was sharing our different musical traditions, which led us to a deeper understanding of each other's emotional landscapes." Marco shared a personal anecdote about learning one of Lyra's folk songs, trying to mimic the melody and stumbling hilariously in the process. The room lightened with laughter, breaking any lingering tension. "The point," Marco said, recovering with a grin, "is that these experiences can challenge us, but also connect us in ways we hadn't anticipated." Lyra then guided the audience through a discussion of the challenges they faced, including misunderstandings and misconceptions about each other's cultures. It's not always easy navigating these complex waters of cultural differences, but the effort is worthwhile because it leads to greater respect and collaboration. Adam presented their concluding thoughts. "We believe that initiatives like ours can pave the way for a more integrated interstellar community. Understanding each other's cultures not only enriches our own experiences, but also helps us work together more effectively." The floor was then opened for questions. An attendee from a reptilian species raised a hand, asking, "How do you propose we implement these learnings on a larger scale?" Lyra responded, "Start small. Cultural exchange programs, joint educational initiatives, and shared space missions can all be stepping stones. It's about creating opportunities for interaction and learning." Another question came from a human participant. "Were there moments when you thought this might not work? How did you handle them?" Marco answered, "Absolutely, there were doubts. But it's about persistence and keeping an open mind. When misunderstandings arose, we addressed them directly, discussed openly, and learned from each other. As the seminar concluded, the feedback was overwhelmingly positive. Attendees lingered to discuss further, exchange contact information, and even propose collaborations. Adam, Marco, and Lyra gathered their notes, sharing satisfied smiles. "I think we made an impact today," Lyra said, looking between her two friends. "We did," Adam agreed. "And we're just getting started." Marco nodded, feeling energized by the possibilities. "Here's to more understanding, more learning, and more friendships across the stars." The trio left the conference room not just as colleagues, but as pioneers of a movement towards deeper interspecies collaboration, their own bonds a testament to the transformative power of cultural exchange. The vast docking bay was bustling with activity, but amidst the controlled chaos, a sense of anticipation was palpable among Adam, Marco, and Lyra. They stood beside their ship, a sleek vessel equipped for interstellar travel, packed with supplies and research equipment for their upcoming missions. Lyra, checking the cargo list on her datapad, turned to Adam with a thoughtful expression. "I never imagined I'd be going to Earth when I first met you. It's strange how quickly things can change." Adam smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. "And I'm just as excited to visit your home. This is more than just a visit. It's a chance to deepen our understanding, not just of each other's cultures, but of our places in the universe." Marco, overseeing the loading of the last supplies, joined them. "It's going to be an incredible journey. Both of your worlds have so much to offer, and I can't wait to experience them through your eyes." The preparations continued, with each of them double-checking equipment and reviewing their itinerary. Adam pulled out a map, spreading it on a nearby crate. "Here's our first stop on Earth, my hometown. We've got a local festival happening. It should be a great introduction to human cultural celebrations." Lyra leaned over the map, tracing the route with her finger. "And then to my world. It's timed perfectly with the Gathering of Stars, a significant cultural event where many different species in our system come together. It's something I'm proud to share with you." Marco looked up from his checklist, his expression earnest. "What are you most looking forward to showing us on Earth, Adam?" Adam thought for a moment. "Honestly, it's the simple things. The food, the music, the way people interact day to day. I want you to see the beauty in the ordinary." "And for your home, Lyra?" Marco asked, turning to her. "The landscapes," she replied without hesitation. "They're unlike anything you'd find on Earth. Crystal forests, singing mountains. It's a world of sensory experiences." Their conversation was interrupted by the announcement over the intercom, signaling that it was time to board. The trio gathered their personal items, their excitement barely contained as they made their way to the ship's entrance. As they stepped aboard, Adam paused, looking back at the station. "This is it, the start of something new." Lyra nodded, her eyes alight with anticipation. "A journey of discovery, about our worlds and about ourselves." Marco, ever the documentarian, held up his camera. "Let's capture every moment, for ourselves and for anyone who might follow in our footsteps." With a final check, they secured themselves in the cockpit. The ship's engines hummed to life, a low vibration that seemed to sync with their collective pulse. As the ship detached from the docking bay and began its gentle drift into open space, the stars ahead beckoned them forward. The journey ahead promised challenges and wonders, but for Adam, Marco, and Lyra, the shared path was the true destination. Lyra, looking out at the expanding view of the cosmos, grasped Adam's and Marco's hands. "To uncharted territories," she whispered. "To new friendships," Adam added, squeezing her hand. "And to endless possibilities," Marco concluded, his voice full of hope and curiosity. The ship accelerated, leaving the space station behind as it slipped into the starlit path that would lead them across the universe. The bonds they had formed, strengthened by their shared aspirations and dreams, would guide them through whatever lay ahead. Their adventure was just beginning, but one thing was certain. Together, they were ready to explore not only the vastness of space, but the depths of their own connections.